ready, watch the gate.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's really been a busy week here for me with the new bike and everything that I've been on, and I've actually gotten some parts to sort of update some things, and I figured I'd show you guys a little bit about what I've just recently purchased and some of the upgrades I'm going to be making to the new BMX bike to kind of make things feel a little bit more like what I had with my other Chase Edge Cruiser, because now that I'm on the class bike, things are a little bit different because it is a smaller wheel and tire package. But the bike itself needs to feel a little bit more like the Cruiser that I'm used to, so I can hopefully have a little bit more riding success. And some of the parts I'm going to show you here is a little bit of what you can use to upgrade your bike as well. Now, first off, I want to give a big shout out to Pete over there at BRG Race Group for hooking me up with this set of forks. I did not expect to get these at all. I had actually ordered a couple other things I'm about to show you, and as a courtesy tip from them, they sent me this set of carbon fiber forks. These are the new Icon forks. They're designed to fit the 1.125" head tube, which is what's on the Chase Edge bikes, and of course it's designed to be with the 20-inch bikes. I have the same forks that are on my Cruiser that's set up for the 24-inch bikes, and we're going to do a video on this separately, but I wanted to show this to you guys and give Pete a big shout out. So thanks, buddy, if you're watching. I appreciate it. This is awesome. I never expected this at all, so this is really cool of you to do, and I can't wait to get these on the bike, and just like I have them on my Cruiser, it's going to look really cool. So in fact, I'll even open them up real quick and show them to you. I should have done this video when I first got the box and opened it, because the look on my face was pretty incredible. These are just a really nice set of carbon forks that they've created. And this is essentially what they are. All carbon fiber throughout. And again, it's designed to work with that 1.125" head tube that's on the frame. And it already has this unique chamfered kind of machined end to it right here. So when you go to replace this on your bike, you actually don't need to do a bottom headset because it's all integrated. So we'll get into this a little bit more. And like I said, I've done this on my Cruiser, and I can't wait to do this on the class bike because this is just a really good piece. It only weighs maybe about a pound. Maybe a little over a pound, so it's a really lightweight part. So it's going to take a lot of weight off the front end. It's going to change a little bit of the riding as well because it's less weight. And of course, it's got this cool black with blue on it. So the blue is just going to kind of go with the motif that I have going on with the bike, which I'll show you guys more here in just a minute with some of the parts that I've picked up. So this is just a really cool piece. I got to get a couple of things for it to make it work. And like I said, we're going to do a separate video on this when I do the install on the new bike that I've got, just so you guys can see this a little bit more. But I wanted to show this first. And again, thanks to Pete there at BRG Race Group. Really good guys over there to be able to do this for me. So we're going to put this back in the box for now and put this away. And I'm going to show you a little bit about what some of the things that I had gotten just to make the class bike a little bit more like the Cruiser bike and some of the reasons why I'm making the changes that I'm making. So we'll move this over here for a moment. So first off, I guess we'll start off with the new seat here that I got from, I believe it's Elevn Industries or Elevn Technologies. This is just a little bit more of a padded seat from what's on the bike now. Does have a little bit more weight to it than the factory seat, which to me doesn't really bother me too much with the weight thing. I know some people that are a little bit more weight conscious with their setups and with their builds, they want a little bit less weight in the seat. But because I've got a little bit more of a bonier tail, the hard plastic seat isn't the most comfortable thing when I'm sitting there on the hill in between laps and getting my my reps in, trying to catch my breath, being an old guy that races. So this is just a little bit more of a comfort seat. They got a few different colors with this. This is actually the same seat that I use on the Cruiser, so I'm already used to it. And it's a really good, just nice seat overall. So if you're looking to do an upgrade from the factory seat, it's pretty much a factory replacement for what's on your Chase Edge if you have one. And it just bolts right to the factory head, or basically seat tube. There's really not much to it as far as getting it installed. Pretty simple job. Just a simple Allen head right to the middle of the seat here, or Allen head bolt. So like I said, as before, it's always good to have a good set of Allen wrenches when you're doing this stuff, and it just bolts right to the bike. Real simple to do. So another thing that I'm going to be changing, which is kind of a major setup, is these bars. Now, these are also from Elevn Industries. These bars are considered more of the flat bar, and what that means is that they're not as kicked up and they're not as swept back. They're a little bit more of a flatter setup. And they're designed to work right in the factory stem, essentially. I believe this is a 22.2 diameter chromoly bar. It's got an 8.5-inch rise on it, which is the same height as the factory bar, so I don't have to worry too much about the height. But being a flatter bar as it's designed, the idea is that this is a little bit more stable when you're up on the gate, getting ready to make a lap, or when you're going over obstacles and you're going over big jumps. And if you're like me, transitioning from a Cruiser down to a class bike and things are a little bit more smaller, this helps with stability. Or if you're just starting out and you want a little bit more stability when you're up on the gate, this is a good thing to look into. These guys retail for about 75 bucks, so it's something worth taking a look at if it's an interest to you. It's a pretty simple install. In fact, I have these same flat bars on my Cruiser. When I went to that bar setup, it was a lot more easier for me to be able to kind of get used to the bike because I was going initially from riding mountain bikes down to the cruiser, and the transition in size of the tires made it a little bit difficult at first. And then of course I got used to riding more, and my riding ability got a little bit better, but a lot of it came from the help of these bars. And I actually have the factory stem off my cruiser to just show you that essentially to put these bars on, it's these 4 bolts right here on the front of your stem. Not much to it, simple Allen wrench. These on thread. You take the other handlebars off, you put the new handlebars on, thread these right back down into place, and then of course you got to get them lined up. I'm going to cap off the bars with these grips from ODI. Really good looking set of grips here. I've used ODI grips for years on my mountain bikes, and I have these on my cruiser bike as well. These are a little bit of a different grip. These are the what are these? These are the V2.1 lock-ons. So they've got this cool looking waffle design on them from Vans, and they lock onto the basically the ends of the bars here through these Allen headed screws, and just kind of slide in place and lock on so they can't move. And just a little bit of a different look and a little bit of a similar feel as to what I have on the cruiser to make things a little bit more familiar for me going from the cruiser over to the class bike. These are a pretty simple install, kind of a unique looking piece. ODI does a lot of different grips. So there's a couple of different designs out there with the way that they have their colors, their looks, their shapes, size and whatnot. These are 135 millimeters, so they just, if you can see, they kind of sit right in about the middle of my hands, and I can move my hands out or I can move them in a little bit and have really good grip on the bars. So just something to upgrade to. It's not necessarily a necessity if you're changing out your bars, because your factory grips will work right on these bars, which is nice, but I wanted to do something kind of unique and sort of keep a little bit with the theme of what I've had from the cruiser to go over to these. Another thing I'm going to be doing is changing the pedals. Now, I mentioned this in the initial video when I first reviewed the bike. The pedals that are from the factory aren't quite as wide as what these are. These are a really nice piece that are available from Insight, and they have these in a few different colors. I did the blue because I'm doing sort of a blue theme with the rest of the color of the bike. And of course, these just thread right into the factory crank arms, which is really nice because it's a simple install. There's not much to it. Again, it's just an Allen head that goes right into it here, or an Allen wrench, so to speak, that goes into it, and they thread right in. Now, the nice thing about these is that there is a little bit of a taller pin on these pedals, and they're also a little bit wider than the factory pedal. So if you're a bigger guy like me and you have a little bit more of a bigger foot, these are actually a really nice upgrade. I believe this is a 9/16 diameter fitting. So if you have something other than a Chase bike and you have a 9/16 diameter thread fitting on your crank arms, these just thread right in, no problem. So if you're looking for an upgrade, these are a really nice piece. They got bearings on both sides of it, and they're pretty durable. I've got the same set of pedals on my cruiser, which is why I'm also going to put them on the class bike, just to keep things feeling somewhat the same. And being a little bit wider, they'll sit on my foot a little bit better. And of course, these pins, as I mentioned, they're a little bit taller, so you have a little bit more grip on the feet, on your footing. Being in the class I'm now in, because I moved up to intermediate, technically I could be in clip-ins. However, years of mountain bike riding, seeing buddies of mine that have been in clip-ins and then going down, seeing other guys at the track that have been down on clip-ins, you can't get away from the bike. And I have this thing called a JOB on Monday. So if something ever happens, and I've gone down a couple of times riding, as we sometimes do, it's nice to be able to get away from the bike and kind of save yourself a little bit. So that's why I'm not immediately going with clip-ins. Later on down the road, I might, as my riding gets a little bit better, as I advance with my skill set, I might update the clip-ins. But for now, these are a nice upgrade, and they don't cost too terribly much. Now, the one last upgrade that I'm going to be doing here on this is definitely going to be changing out the chainring. And this is another thing I talked about in the initial video. Now, this is a 46-tooth chainring that's also available from Elevn Industries, or Elevn Technologies. They have a couple of different teeth from what the factory setup is. Now, the factory chainring is a 44-tooth chainring, and you have a 16-tooth cog. Now, there's a mathematical equation where you take your chainring number and you divide it by your number of teeth in your cog. So I've got a 44/16 setup, which is just what the factory setup is. I believe that's a 2.75 ratio when you divide the two together. Now, when you multiply it by your wheel size, which in my case is 20, you get your overall rollout. Now, the factory setup on the bike is a 55 rollout as far as the numeric aspect of it goes. I believe with this, it gives me about a 57 and some change. Now, what that means that essentially is that you won't be as quick to accelerate, but you have a little bit more top end. However, if you've gotten better with your riding skills and you're coming out of the gate a little quicker and you don't have the pull coming out of the corner, or you don't have the pull coming down the hill that you want, making a 1 to 2 tooth change on your chainring can make a big difference on track. So if it's something that you haven't tried yet and may be worth just trying yourself, it's always good to only go up by 1 tooth, essentially, if you've never done it before, just to see what the difference is. I'm going up by 2 teeth, and I'm kind of going against the rule of what everyone has said. Essentially, you can also change the gearing on the cog gear that's on the back, which is on your drive gear on your rear wheel. Now, I've done that on the Cruiser a few times, and I've gone up and down with different gear ratios and sets on that bike to try and find a happy medium of where I want to be. Essentially, with what I'm doing with this, my rollout, like I said, is going to be 57 and some change. On my Cruiser, my rollout is in the 61 range. I think it's 61.13 or something odd like that, just with the gear set that's on it. So I'm still going to have a pretty soft number. It's not going to be as easy as the Cruiser, or it's actually going to be easier than the Cruiser, but it's going to be a little bit harder than what I currently have now. So we're going to see what it does. We're going to play with it a little bit. This does require a little bit of work to get installed because you do have to have some tooling for this, specifically on the Chase bikes, because the way the crank arm has to be removed from the bottom bracket. It's a pretty simple process, but you got to make sure you have the tool for it, which is available from Park Tool. I use Park Tool for a lot of my odds and end tools for my bike stuff. And what I'll do is I'll have a link at the bottom of this video with all these parts that I've accumulated, along with what the tool is that you need to be able to do this. On top of that, it's good to have a tool for the chainring bolts that are right here that are attached to the crank arm itself as well. It's a really unique little tool, and if I can find the part number for it, I'll include it at the bottom of this video as well to kind of show you guys what you need. Now, I'm not going to show you guys how all this stuff goes on because it's going to take me a few minutes to get everything installed and assembled. But what I am going to do is get everything on the bike except for the forks, kind of get some changes made, get things level and nice and even with the bars. I'm going to make a few quick laps around the neighborhood, make sure everything's good to go, and then I'm going to get out to the racetrack and actually see how the differences are, and hopefully give you guys a little bit of an insight to how the bike feels, the differences with the bars and with new chainring on it to see how the bike accelerates, and of course the pedals as well to give me a little bit more better footing underneath me. So I'm going to get that going, get things all installed on the bike here, and then hopefully we'll get out to the track, give you guys a few laps that you can watch, and then give you guys some final insights. So I'm going to go get that going. When we come back, we're hopefully going to be at the track doing some testing. All right, guys, so here we are back at San Diego BMX Racing. I just finished up with a lapping day today. Had a really good session out here with the new parts. I want to go over a little bit of what's been changed and kind of the differences of how the bike initially was to what it is now. Now, the biggest changes, of course, have been with the handlebars because these being a flatter bar, my stance is a little bit more wider, which, of course, gives me a little bit more stability when I'm in the gate and, of course, going over jumps, which is a big plus. And then, of course, the gear changes also made a big difference as well. I remember I'm on a 1/6 rear tire, so I went up 2 teeth on the chainring instead of just 1. So that definitely helps just coming out of the gate and a little bit more speed on track. And of course, I'm not exactly a fast guy, which you'll see some laps here in just a moment to see just how fast I really am or not. But I've never been considered a really fast rider, but this definitely helps a little bit with at least getting through the track and getting through the obstacles a little bit faster. Now, of course, the other changes being the seat, which is almost more of an aesthetic. It is a lot more comfortable than what was initially on the bike. And of course, the pedals having a little bit more of a bigger pin on them. My feet are a little bit more planted when I'm on the bike as well, which helps. The grips, of course, are just a familiar feel with the grips that I had on my Cruiser because they've got that Vans sort of cool, like waffle style design to them. And ODI has always made a really nice grip. So overall, the changes have been great. I've picked up a little bit of speed, and of course, none of this really accounts to just riding the bike and getting faster and practicing. So make sure that when you're doing this kind of stuff, or if you're considering it, that just going out and practicing with your bike will always equal a little bit more than just changing parts. So in the long term, it's better to just go out and do that first and then make your adjustments. So you guys are gonna see some laps. I'm gonna go home and clean the bike up. Hope you guys get to see you on the next one. If you guys have any questions, just like, share, subscribe, put your questions at the bottom of the video. I'll make sure I give you guys some responses as quick as I can. I'll see you guys on the next video.
Watch